Welcome, everybody, to another deep dive with us. Today, we are going super deep into the concept of prosperity,
Prosperity, yeah.
but through kind of a spiritual lens. I'm really excited about this
It's
one.
a good one.
Yeah. So, we're going to be looking at excerpts from a book called Prosperity
Okay.
by Charles Fillmore, who is, well, he's kind of a big name in metaphysical thought.
Um,
So, in this deep dive, our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to uncover how this guy, Fillmore, connected these spiritual principles with practical abundance.
I like it.
Particularly, when it comes to finances, right? Like that's what we all want to know. How do we get more? But, maybe through a different, more spiritual lens. And then hopefully we'll be able to give you some actionable takeaways.
Yeah, I think there's some really good stuff in here.
Yeah. Okay. So let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
So Fillmore, he starts off with this core belief that the divine mind is like the source of all creation,
Okay.
right? And that it's just overflowing with this limitless substance, right?
Limitless. I like that.
I know, it sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Limitless. So he's saying that everything in the universe comes from this divine mind,
Uh-huh.
including prosperity.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? When you hear limitless substance, what does that make you think of?
Well, I think what's really interesting about Fillmore is that he doesn't just talk about these things in a really kind of esoteric, out there way.
Mhm.
He really tries to ground it in practical experience, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
I think when I hear limitless substance, it's easy to think, oh, there's a magical bank account somewhere.
Yeah.
Or, like money's just going to fall from the sky or something.
Yeah.
But he's really talking about something a little bit deeper than that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not like a literal, we can all just go to the ATM of the universe and get rich kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more nuanced than that.
Right. He saw the divine mind as the ultimate source, the origin of everything in the universe.
Okay.
And prosperity, financial abundance is just one expression of that.
So it's like a natural state of being almost.
Right. Abundance is the natural state of the divine mind. So we're not separate from that.
Okay, so instead of like we always think of abundance as something that's scarce, right?
Uh-huh.
And that we got to fight for.
Uh-huh.
It's more about like aligning ourselves with this already existing flow, right?
Exactly. And that's where I think this idea of the ether comes in, right?
Oh, yeah, the ether. What is that?
So he describes the ether as this invisible, intelligent energy field
Okay.
that connects everything. So, back then, the idea of the ether was a little bit more of a scientific concept, I
Oh,
think.
interesting.
But he takes it to a different level. He's saying it's an intelligent field
Okay.
that's conscious, that's creative.
Okay.
So you can think of it like an infinite ocean of potential. We're all swimming in this ether. We're all connected to it. We might not realize it, but we are.
That's wild because that's so interesting because like even thinking about what scientists are describing today, the quantum field, 0 point energy, right? It's
Right.
all about this kind of untapped potential that's just there.
Yeah, I think that's a really fascinating connection, right?
Yeah.
Fillmore, writing in the early 20th century, is intuiting something that science is only now starting to explore in more detail.
Right.
And, if you take that connection seriously, what it suggests is that we are not just these separate beings,
Right.
struggling to kind of scrape by in this limited world,
Yeah.
but we're actually connected to this vast source of abundance.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm starting to like I can see how that shift in perspective could be really powerful.
Right.
But like, okay, how do we actually work with that though?
Right.
Like how do we move beyond just thinking about it to actually bringing that abundance into our lives?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah, literally.
So Fillmore, he believed that our thoughts, our ideas, play a crucial role in this process.
Okay.
And he had this really interesting way of describing it.
Okay, how does he describe it?
He said that thoughts are like steam.
Steam.
Yeah. They're fleeting, they're impermanent, they kind of dissipate quickly.
Okay. Okay.
But where does that steam come from?
Oh, good point.
A much more powerful source.
Right.
The boiling water, right?
Okay.
The water is what creates the steam.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. So the water is like the underlying idea, the true substance
Exactly.
that gives rise to those thoughts. Like the thoughts are just the steam, but the idea is like the source.
Precisely. He saw ideas as the real driving force behind manifestation.
Okay.
So instead of just wishing for money, which we all do, right?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
He encouraged us to work with the underlying ideas of prosperity. So the question becomes, what does abundance truly mean to you? What are those core beliefs, those principles that support it?
So it's not about just wishing for $1 million. It's about cultivating that mindset and the beliefs that align with that level of abundance.
Right. Think about it this way. If you want to build a house, right, you don't just wish for it to magically appear.
I mean, I wish I could, but
I know. We all do. You create blueprints, you visualize the layout, you maybe even visit other houses for inspiration.
right.
You're working with the idea of the house before it becomes a physical reality.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
So to apply that to prosperity, it's about going deeper than just wanting more money.
Absolutely.
It's about understanding those principles, cultivating that inner state that aligns with true abundance.
Exactly. It's about consciously choosing those thoughts, those beliefs that will shape our reality. Because, ultimately, Fillmore is saying those ideas, those are the real substance that manifest into the physical world.
Okay.
Yeah.
But even if we're working with those powerful ideas, sometimes, it's hard to maintain that belief, especially when we're facing challenges, setbacks.
Yeah.
That's where faith comes in, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Like, how does Fillmore talk about faith?
Well, he had a very unique perspective on faith. It's not just blind belief,
Oh.
It's not just hoping for something to happen.
Okay.
He saw it as a deep inner knowing. He even called it faith substance.
Faith substance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Suggesting that true faith has a tangible quality to it. It's not just airy-fairy.
It's not just a feeling.
Right.
Okay.
So it's about trusting the unseen, the infinite potential that we're all connected to, even when we can't see the evidence of it yet.
So it's not just about hoping for something to happen. It's about having this unwavering certainty that it already exists on some level.
Right. You think about, the biblical story of Elizabeth and Zacharias.
Oh, yeah.
They were told they were going to have a son, even though Elizabeth was considered too old to conceive, But Zacharias, he doubted.
He doubted, yeah.
And he actually lost his ability to speak, which I think is a very symbolic,
Wow.
kind of representation of how doubt can really block that manifestation.
It's like that disbelief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy almost.
Totally. But Elizabeth, she held on to that inner knowing. She had that faith.
Yeah.
And ultimately, John the Baptist was born.
Wow. So it's almost like her unwavering belief actually played a role in bringing about the seemingly impossible.
That's right. And Fillmore believed that stories like this, they illustrate the power of faith.
Okay, yeah.
It's about aligning our inner world with that reality we desire, even when the external circumstances might seem to contradict it.
Wow. Okay, so we've got this foundation of divine mind, understanding ideas as substance, the importance of faith. But even with all that, why do so many people still struggle with prosperity, especially, financial prosperity?
Right.
Is it simply a lack of faith? Like, what's going on?
Well, Fillmore believed that one of the major obstacles to prosperity isn't a lack of resources.
Oh.
It's a lack of awareness of those resources.
Okay.
It's a belief in lack itself. It's a fear of scarcity. And, that manifests as limiting beliefs, negative self-talk, things that we tell ourselves all the time.
So you mean thoughts like, I'll never be able to afford that, or I'm just not good with money. Those little seemingly harmless thoughts could actually be creating our reality.
That's right.
Mhm.
He put it so powerfully when he said, the only lack is the fear of lack in the mind of man.
Wow.
We do not need to overcome any lack, but we must overcome the fear of lack. It's a call to become vigilant about our thoughts,
Yeah.
recognizing those patterns of scarcity and consciously choosing to replace them with thoughts of abundance.
So it's not about ignoring our financial challenges, but about shifting the internal dialogue around them.
Right. It's about recognizing that we have more power than we realize. Our thoughts, our beliefs, they shape our reality.
Yeah.
And by changing them, we can begin to open ourselves up to a whole new world of possibilities.
This is incredible stuff. I feel like we've just scratched the surface of Fillmore's ideas here.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm ready to dive deeper.
Okay.
What else did he have to say about practically applying these principles?
Well, he had some really fascinating insights on the concept of right giving, which I think is really interesting.
Right giving. Okay, yeah, let's delve into that. What is right giving? That sounds like it's more than just writing a check to your favorite charity.
Yeah, it really is.
Right giving. Okay, yeah, let's delve into that. What is right giving? That sounds like it's more than just writing a check to your favorite charity.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Fillmore believed that giving is about so much more than just the outward act.
Okay.
It's about aligning ourselves with this universal flow of abundance,
Okay.
recognizing that we're all part of a larger system of giving and receiving.
So it's like we're tapping into this energetic circuit almost.
Yeah.
If we're only focused on receiving, then we're essentially blocking the flow.
Right. Exactly. He saw giving as a way to acknowledge God as the source of all good
Okay.
and to keep that energy circulating. He was a big proponent of tithing,
Tithing.
giving 10% of your income as a way to kind of demonstrate this principle.
Okay. Now 10%, that's a pretty specific number.
Yeah.
Is there something special about that percentage, or is it more about the principle behind it?
Yeah, I think the 10% figure, it appears in a lot of spiritual traditions.
Right.
But Fillmore's emphasis was less about the exact number and more about that underlying mindset.
Okay.
It's a symbolic way of acknowledging that everything ultimately comes from a higher source.
So it's like a way of saying, I trust that you'll provide,
Exactly.
and recognizing that our true wealth comes from something bigger than ourselves.
Right. It's a way of demonstrating faith in the abundance of the universe rather than clinging to that scarcity mindset.
Okay. Yeah.
And he even used the parable of the prodigal son to illustrate this point, which I think is interesting.
The prodigal son, now isn't that the story about the son who squanders his inheritance and then comes crawling back home? It doesn't exactly scream abundance consciousness to me.
No, on the surface, it might not.
Okay.
But when you look deeper, when the son returns home, he's not punished for his mistakes.
Oh, great.
He's welcomed with open arms and lavish gifts.
It's like the Father's house represents that state of abundance consciousness.
Exactly.
Like no matter what we've done, we can always return to that awareness of limitless possibility.
Right. And by aligning ourselves with that consciousness, we open ourselves up to receiving those lavish gifts, that infinite abundance that's always available to us.
Okay. That's a beautiful way to look at it. But in practical terms, does this mean we should all be giving away 10% of our income? What about people who are struggling to make ends meet?
Yeah, that's a good question. Fillmore wasn't dogmatic about the specifics. He emphasized the importance of finding what feels right for you.
Okay.
So explore different forms of giving: time, money, energy, skills.
Right.
And notice the impact it has on your own prosperity consciousness.
Mhm.
Even small acts of generosity can make a difference.
So it's about cultivating that spirit of generosity, regardless of our financial situation, and trusting that the more we give, the more we open ourselves up to receive.
Right. It's about recognizing that the universe operates on this principle of flow,
Okay, yeah.
and that by contributing to that flow, we ultimately benefit ourselves and the world around us.
This is also insightful, but let's shift gears for a moment and talk about something that feels like the opposite of abundance, which is debt.
Yeah.
It can be such a major source of stress and worry for so many people.
Yeah, absolutely.
What did Fillmore have to say about approaching debt from a spiritual perspective?
Well, he had some pretty radical views on debt, actually.
Okay.
He didn't see it as simply as a financial problem,
Mm.
but as a reflection of our inner state.
Okay.
He believed that debt is often rooted in a mentality of lack
Okay.
and a fear of scarcity.
So it's not just about the numbers on our credit card statement. It's about the thoughts and beliefs that underlie those numbers.
Right. It's the energy behind it.
Mm.
And he had this rather striking way of putting it.
How did he put it?
He said, debt is a thought of lack with absence at both ends. The creditor thinks he lacks what is owed him, and the debtor thinks he lacks what is necessary to pay it.
Wow. That's powerful. So if debt is rooted in this lack consciousness, how do we shift that perspective? Is it just about thinking positive thoughts about our finances?
Well, Fillmore believed that while affirmations can be helpful, true transformation comes from a deeper place.
Okay.
He really emphasized the importance of forgiveness,
Forgiveness.
both of ourselves and others.
Forgiveness, I'm not sure I see the connection to debt.
Well, think about it. When we hold on to resentment, blame, guilt, we're essentially holding on to that energy of lack.
Okay.
It's like carrying around a heavy weight.
So by forgiving, we're releasing that weight and creating space for something new to emerge.
Exactly. He saw forgiveness as this powerful tool for clearing out that mental and emotional clutter,
Yeah.
paving the way for a new reality to manifest. He believed that releasing that energy of judgment and blame, it allows us to step into a state of greater abundance.
This has given me a whole new way to think about my own financial situation. But if debt is a reflection of our internal state, what about the people we owe money to? Do we need to forgive them, too?
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. Fillmore believed that forgiveness is ultimately a gift we give ourselves.
Okay.
It doesn't condone the actions of others, but it frees us from the burden of holding on to that anger and resentment.
Okay.
It allows us to move forward with a lighter heart.
It's almost like we're cutting the energetic cords that keep us tied to that negativity and scarcity.
Right. And that opens up space for new possibilities to flow into our lives,
Yeah.
both financially and in every other area.
This has been such an enlightening conversation. Fillmore's ideas they're truly transformative.
Yeah, they really are.
Before we wrap up our deep dive here, is there one final piece of wisdom from Fillmore that you think is essential for understanding his approach to prosperity? Before we wrap up our deep dive here, is there one final piece of wisdom from Fillmore that you think is essential for understanding his approach to prosperity?
I think throughout our exploration, we've touched upon this really crucial aspect of his teachings that underpins everything else,
Yeah.
and that is the recognition of our inherent divinity.
Oh, the divine within.
Yeah,
That's a concept that resonates deeply, but it can also feel a little bit elusive.
right.
What did Fillmore actually mean by that, and how does it relate to prosperity?
Well, he believed that we're not just these physical beings, trying to accumulate wealth and possessions.
Right.
At our core, we are expressions of the divine mind, that infinite source of abundance we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he saw true prosperity as a reflection of this inner divinity.
So it's not about striving to become divine, it's about remembering that we already are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about aligning ourselves with that truth, recognizing the limitless potential that resides within each of us.
Okay.
And Fillmore believed that when we tap into this inner divinity, we naturally begin to attract greater abundance into our lives.
It's like we're shifting our identity from one of lack and limitation to one of infinite possibility.
Right. And that shifting consciousness is where true transformation begins.
Okay.
It's not about denying our current circumstances, but about approaching them from a place of wholeness
Yeah.
and knowing that we have the power to create something different.
That's so empowering. It takes the focus off of external circumstances and puts it back within our own control.
Exactly. He believed that this inner work is essential for experiencing lasting prosperity.
Okay.
It's about cultivating a deep sense of self-worth, recognizing our inherent value as spiritual beings.
It makes me think of that saying, as within, so without.
Right.
Our outer world is a reflection of our inner state.
Fillmore might have phrased it this way. What treasures are you laying up in the heavens of your mind?
That's beautiful. He's not talking about material possessions, but about the qualities we're cultivating within ourselves.
Right.
Are we investing in thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes that align with abundance or scarcity?
Exactly. It's a call to examine our inner landscape,
Yeah.
to become aware of the thoughts and beliefs that might be holding us back,
Okay.
and then to consciously choose to replace them with those that support our highest vision of prosperity.
So if Fillmore could offer one final piece of advice to our listeners, what do you think it would be?
I think he would encourage everyone to ask themselves this question. If you could dissolve one limiting belief about money right now, what would it be and how would that shift your reality?
That's such a powerful question. It invites us to take a deep look within and identify those beliefs that might be blocking us from experiencing true abundance. And then to imagine the possibilities that open up when we release those limitations.
Fillmore's work is all about empowering us to create a life of greater joy, fulfillment, and yes, prosperity.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that abundance is our birthright, and that by aligning ourselves with the principles he outlined, we can begin to experience that truth in our everyday lives.
This has been an incredibly rich and inspiring deep dive. I feel like I've gained a whole new perspective on what it means to be truly prosperous.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you, and I hope our listeners will take these principles to heart and begin to experiment with them in their own lives.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Remember, true prosperity starts from within. By cultivating an awareness of our inherent divinity and aligning ourselves with the principles of abundance, we can create a life that is truly rich in every sense of the word. Until next time, keep diving deep.